Doors open. All right. KWC, you already know what it is. Today I'm accompanied by a very special guest and veteran, not only of the service, but the JDM drift world, my good buddy Trey. Thanks for hanging out with me, man. Got some drinks for us from the Publix. Nice and healthy.
Yeah, mango.
Mango? Okay.
Yeah.
And then I got these bad boys. I know it's dinner time, but I decided to be fat. So I got eclairs or something, if you care to have them. But let's crack these open. Cool. Cheers.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. That's like a blueberry thing. Yeah, I'm doing a sober January. I'm just taking a month off of the sauce. Otherwise, I would be clinking beers with you here.
Yeah, I haven't really drank much lately at all.
I don't think you're a big beer guy.
I used to be several years ago.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
In the good old days.
Yeah, like pre-Navy and also in the Navy, but more so before when I didn't really have much to do.
Yeah. So excited to hang out with you and talk cars and stuff. You come from a different world than mine. You know, I like my Harleys and my trucks and all that stuff. But our mutual interest in motors and just tinkering with things and building, the need to create, I think is why we get along so great. But I knew I wanted to do an episode, and I was like, oh my gosh, we got to do something with your project car. This is all very foreign to me, so it's kind of exciting to be able to pick your brain and talk about this stuff. Can you go over like where we're sitting, what car this is, how did you get it?
Yeah, so it's a 1995 Nissan 240SX. Nothing special when I bought it. I bought it on the side of a road in Bellevue, so in Florida. I was just on my way to dinner, but I was in the Navy at the time, so I was on leave, and we were going to dinner, and I saw this car on the side of the road, and I immediately made a U-turn, and I was like, all right, let's go check this thing out. Like, I want to buy a car, and it was like the perfect timing.
It was like parked in their driveway, or?
It was like just in a field next to like a mechanic shop.
Oh.
And it just had a sign on it. It said like 3,000 OBO. Nothing to look at all. It was completely stock though. Had some weird like wheels on it. And then I just called the guy up and we met up I think the next day, and I got it for like a couple $100 under asking, and yeah, that was pretty much it. Yeah, my buddy Clint helped me out. We put a clutch in it, put some tires on it, and then he drove it to Georgia, and then we ended up driving it together to California, and that's when I really started like modifying it.
Nice. Once you made your way out west, you really started tearing it apart?
Yeah, so yeah, when I was stationed in Point Mugu that's when I met you out there. I don't think you knew I had this car at the time. But I didn't really drive it much either. But yeah, that's when I started modifying it. I was getting into drifting. And that's when pretty much just started the build, I guess, and then just started driving more, getting to know the car more. So now I'm about 6 years into ownership, and the car is still a project car.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a lot of things done to it. I mean, the engine's been swapped, rebuilt it, forged pistons, rods, board, the walls. So we went 0.5 millimeters over. I think that's 40 thousandths. MLS head gasket, ARP head studs, uh, timing chain, oil pump, etc. Turboed the car. Um, did a yeah, basically redid the whole engine. And then the past couple of years, I've been upgrading like the power steering, reservoir, coolant reservoir, um, aluminum drive shaft. Changed like the ring set in the diff, put like a shorter gearing in the diff, so 4.6 as opposed to like the stock 4.08.
What's the benefits to that
So
with the shortening the gearing?
it's a big thing in like Japan. A lot of guys they drive on smaller tracks, so the gearing's kind of long. And these cars, you know, they're made. It's a highway, you know, it's a regular car.
Mm-hmm.
So when you shorten the gearing, you're in a higher RPM range in most of the gears at a lower speed. So you can use that to your advantage if you have a lower power car or a car like making just around like 300 horsepower. A lot of the cars that make 6, 7, 800, they lengthen the gearing. So a lot of the guys in Japan, they just shorten the gearing and then keep the same amount of horsepower, keep the car reliable, but also like more fun.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, coming from the bike world, specifically like Harley V twin, that's always been a debate with like older motors with less power on like really cool frames that are like sought after. Is like, oh, do you stick with the 5-speed or do you lengthen out to 7? Most people got the 6-speed, but that has been something I kind of discussed with Mike Motorheads in the bike space. Is like, well, does it make sense to squeeze out a 7th gear? And it's like, well, really, it's like, yeah, you're gaining extra gear, but now the rest of the gears are shorter, so it's you're not really gaining or losing anything. But it is interesting to see how that applies to, I guess the drift scene or JDM cars, based on horsepower, is what you're saying. So you could have a low horsepower, reliable motor that you could just slam through them.
Yeah, so we only really use like, we don't really use fourth or fifth gear much, unless it's on like a high speed track. So second and third gear are really crucial. And like at the local like skid pad OSW, that track's very small, the layout's very short. So second gear is very crucial. And you can kind of use that to your advantage with like a higher horsepower car. If your gearing is right, you can kind of keep up with those cars. So that helps a lot. And it just kind of goes with the style of driving. Higher RPM, you're in the power band more times than not, so you're using the most of what you have. So yeah, it just kind of works out that way. I've used the stock diff, um, and it's good for some things on bigger tracks, but they're really easy to like swap out. Differentials are really simple on these cars, which is nice.
Simple projects. Nice. Did you said you saw this sitting off the side of the road when you bought it. Were you into this? Did you have friends that were into this before? Like, was your father a car guy?
Yeah,
What, where did it all start?
yeah, my dad, he had like a '92 Camaro IROC.
Okay.
Um,
IROCs
when
are
we
cool.
were probably like younger, maybe like, I don't know, 9 or 10. And he was always messing with it, driving it. He did a couple things to it. He eventually sold it. But I think he was just so busy that he never had time to like really build it up. But yeah, he's always been a mechanic, so he's taught me pretty much everything I know. And then I still call him for advice if there's something wrong. Because, I mean, mechanical things still apply, like car to car.
Yeah.
If you're having issues or electrical issues, that still applies. Um, but yeah, I got into drifting. Um, Really, I was exposed to it in Ocala in like 2011 or 12.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my buddy Derek bought a 350Z and it was like turboed, and it was like the only turbo car like I'd ridden in. And he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna go out to this warehouse parking lot and we're gonna go like mess around and go drift." And I was like, "All right, what's that?" You know. And we went there, and then he met his buddy Kip, I think, and he had a Miata, and he was like really into drifting. And I just rode in his car. I rode the Z, and it's pretty much hooked. Like it just felt really fun. It felt like a bunch of controlled burnouts, but I know there was more to it. Um,
And his Nissan. You said
yeah,
you said it hooked up pretty good.
yeah, it was really fun. I mean, the car made like 400 horse. It was just like a bolt-on turbo kit, but I think he just like traded a car for it, or he's like he flips a lot of cars.
Mm-hmm.
He's just good at it. He always finds good deals. And he had the car for a bit. I think he got rid of it, but there was a gap in between that and like when I really like was hooked. Um, and My buddy Clint, when we were stationed in Connecticut, he bought one of these cars, and uh, we took it in the middle of winter into like a Best Buy parking lot at like 2 in the morning, and we started like drifting. Right, we were like trying to practice, like trying to figure it out. And snow is very forgiving, but also unforgiving at the same time, because once you get stuck, you're done. Um, but yeah, he let me like do some donuts in his car, mess around. Like I never owned like a rear wheel drive car, and yeah, it was super fun. We got stuck like twice. The second time,
You got stuck in a parking lot.
yeah,
You just hit like an ice patch, or how's that work?
we got caught up on a curb.
Oh shit,
So yeah,
that's not good.
we got stuck on a curb, and we actually had a tow truck like pull us off. And then we decided to go to like this neighborhood with this huge like loop. There's a bunch of apartments in the middle of the loop.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just doing this huge loop. It was like kind of like faster, and we're trying to like gain some speed. And we ended up like washing out onto the outside of the road, getting stuck again at like 5 in the morning. And some kid like just showed up out of nowhere and was like, "Hey, you guys need some help?" He had like a
Funny.
shovel, and he just helped us like start shoveling the car out, and we eventually got out of the ditch. And yeah, that was really fun. And then we lived together for a little bit. We started playing Forza Motorsport 4, and they had like a drift mode in that game.
That's funny. So you're just like constantly immersing yourself in this. Like the buddy's got the drift car, and then you're practicing the drifting. And then when you're not practicing the drifting, you're getting your car out of a ditch. And when you're not getting your car out of the ditch, like now you're playing it in your spare time.
Yeah, we would play Forza a lot, and that game was super fun. Like he kind of taught me like some of the dynamics of drifting in the video game, because a lot of it is counter steering, throttle control. Uh, there's some like handbrake use, clutch clutch kicking, which is like a term we use a lot in drifting. It basically just helps like break the tires loose, um, and it helps you also like keep the RPMs up in drift. So yeah, there's a lot of dynamics in that game that kind of helped. And I mean, I played it up till probably last year. Forza 7 maybe I was playing, and kind of got burnt out on it because they didn't make a new Forza for like 5 or 6 years. So I was playing the same tracks over and over.
But one just came out, right?
Yeah, there's a new one that just came out, I think
And
a
you were
month
playing the last
ago.
one?
Yeah, I was playing the last one, and a couple of people told me it wasn't very exciting.
The newest?
Um, yeah, they said it
Damn.
was like, yeah, they just said it wasn't all that, and
Well, probably because it got overhyped over the course of 6 years. It's
yeah,
probably better, but not
yeah,
that much
I'm sure it's a
better.
great driving game, but Yeah, it kind of gets old, I guess. You really just want to drive the car.
You're like, it's
Um,
not the real thing.
yeah, but now like everybody's playing on like Assetto Corsa, and they have real tracks that people go drift at, and it actually helps with
What's the game?
Assetto Corsa.
And that's based off a lot of real tracks around the world.
Yeah, so a lot of Japanese tracks are on there. I mean, really, you can build a track on there. You can kind of mimic the tracks that people go to. They'll build them out. There's like builders out there. They'll build cars for you. They'll build tracks for whoever, and then you hop on their server. I haven't really played it
Oh,
much, but it definitely helps with because you have a you can get a steering wheel, clutch, gas pedal, brake pedal set up with like a handbrake, and you can kind of practice technique more, and then it's a bit more realistic than like a controller stick on Forza. Um,
sure. And okay, so do you think this is all on Xbox?
a lot of guys on Assetto play on PC just
PC?
because
But they got the pedals and the steering wheel plugged into the PC?
yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
So have you done that?
I've only done it like twice,
Do
and
you think, did it feel anything kind of sort of like the real thing, or
it felt
muscle memory wise? Like, did you feel like you were mimicking
it
some
felt
good
really hard
habits?
to yeah, it felt really hard to get used to. But after I was in the chair, because it was like a bucket seat, like this guy had like a used bucket seat, and he had like a 3 monitor setup, and yeah, it was very addicting. I was in
Mm,
the chair for probably like 3 hours, and I didn't want to get out because I was really trying to like learn it, like adapt, and it got really fun. Um, yeah, I really enjoyed it. Plus with the handbrake, um, my handbrake doesn't really work well, and I never really used it in drifting up until like a year ago, and I kind of like
the handbrake in this car?
yeah,
Really?
I kind of like used it in the game, and it kind of helped like teach me how to use it, like if I was to use it, like what it does to the car, especially in like tight corners, things of that nature, chasing cars, um, getting close, like proximity to like another car without hitting them. So yeah, that was really cool. I can definitely see why it's super popular, and people will actually just buy a car after like drifting on a sim for like a year, and then
Right.
go out there and do like pretty decent
Yep.
because they kind of have that muscle memory, like you're saying.
So you made the comment about the e-brake. Again, I'm totally ignorant to the drifting. Like I understand what it looks like. You know, you're coming around the turns. I mostly just see videos off the internet when like people are hitting the track. Are you not? You said you were drifting for a long time without the e-brake. I was
Yeah,
under the impression you had to have it because I always see those guys racking back like a giant one.
yeah.
I thought it was needed to perform that.
Yeah, there's different types of style of driving. Um, a lot of the driving I like to try to mimic is like momentum based. So you're accelerating into the corner instead of approaching the corner, pulling the handbrake, and then initiating the drift or the start
Mm.
of the drift. The e-brake is very like the pull back style is 9 times out of 10 that's a hydraulic handbrake. Um, so it's a separate brake setup. So it uses fluid in a master cylinder hooked up to separate uh, calipers, and it works really well, and it locks out the brakes pretty much whenever you want.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, I didn't. I wanted to learn.
I would imagine that costs money.
Yeah, they're probably about 700 to 1,000 for a proper setup. I'm actually looking into one shortly, just to make things more efficient, more reliable. Um,
This is just bone stock cable.
yeah, so it's a bone stock like cable setup. I've replaced the cables, the calipers, the brake pads, um, adjusted it, and it's just not very consistent.
Do you find as you beat on it, the cable stretches? Is that thing cable stretch?
They say it's a thing. I replaced the cables, so I wouldn't have to worry about like that theory. So yeah, these companies do make replacement cables, but they're just not really designed for what we're actually doing.
Right.
Repeated heavy pulling and use. It's just to hold the car in position. It's not
Bite down on
to
all
bite,
four, yeah.
yeah, bite the tires and be very aggressive. I mean, they kind of work good.
Because I think we were making jokes about this. We were hanging out the other day, and you were telling me a little bit about it, and I was like, man, I can't tell you how many times I've pulled out of my driveway, like with old trucks and stuff, or my mom's SUV, and I'm like, man, this car handles like shit. And I'm like driving down the street going 20, and I realize the thing's up, and I'm like, oh. And then it occurs to me, I was like, wait, the e-brake was on. What's the point of this?
Yeah,
Like, it didn't stop me at all.
yeah, some cars are very like good, like my Subaru. The handbrake works great.
Like, you're not gonna move.
Yeah, you won't move, and you can feel it kind of like actually bite down on the pads. Same thing in the Jetta. Like it works better than mine, but this car's 30 years old, so
Yeah.
it's really hard to say what is good. Um, but yeah, I learned this car was like only 140 horsepower when I started learning like drifting, so a lot of it is momentum based when you're actually trying to get the car side. It's actually really hard to get the car sideways with low power.
You know, that's kind of funny that you started off with a low horsepower drift car, because like I follow a lot of the pre-runner guys, and obviously power is great, especially when you're trying to push out there with no traction, which is something like you kind of both share. But it's the same thing. Like I see a lot of guys start out with low horsepower Rangers and stuff, and they too have to learn like this momentum game. And like if you want to be able to race through the whoops
Yeah,
and like get your vehicle to have good flow through the track, otherwise you will get stuck. You can't just fucking bullnose your way through a turn where it's all dusty and you're soaking in sand. If you don't have the horsepower, like you really have to utilize momentum. It's almost kind of similar to what you go through in your turns. Like if you don't know how to utilize the horsepower you have, I don't think you're going to be ready for more when you get it.
yeah, it's definitely helped me progress. It's been a slow progression just because I haven't been driving as much as I like to, but also like I mean, budget kind of dictates like what you can do to your car, and like if you want to drive your car more, you're gonna modify your car less. So it's kind of like a double-ended like sword
Can you squeeze
handle or
more?
whatever.
Can you safely squeeze more power out of this motor, or is it pretty
Oh
pretty
yeah,
tapped out?
yeah. It could probably handle 400, no problem.
What's it at right now?
Probably like 270. It's very like mild setup right now.
What do you think the power to the rear wheel is?
That's at the rear wheels. I've had a dynoed, so yeah, it's about that.
That sounds pretty damn good, because this thing's not terribly heavy, right? I mean,
Yeah,
so it looks like you ripped a lot of things out here.
yeah, it's probably 2600 ish. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
It's just like a ballpark. Um, so yeah, yeah, it's not too heavy. Um, but when you cut your horsepower in half and your tires are only 30% narrower, it's a lot harder to break traction, and that's why I learned like more technique based driving, more momentum, using all the power it has to keep it sideways. Um, and I think that's what's like got me to this point of like not using a handbrake much. But now that as you gain more power, you're carrying more speed up to a corner, which means you need to slow down faster. The only way to do that is to either use the handbrake or use more angle to scrub more speed, or a combination of both. Um, so if you can only scrub so much speed at angle, so that handbrake will help slow you down a bit.
Just for your frame of reference, have you drifted other friends' cars? with more horsepower or less horsepower features?
Um,
You guys ever like trade keys?
no, not really. I mean, yeah, one time. So yeah, my buddy Asher has a LS swapped Skyline. I think it's a LS6 maybe. Uh, like a big cam. Um, so yeah, he let me drive his car when mine was down in Colorado, and it had about 400
Mm-hmm.
horsepower, maybe like four. Yeah, we'll say four. And the car was just very snappy, very easy to kick out sideways,
Mm-hmm.
very easy to break traction, and it was a blast. Honestly, like it was great, but it needed like supporting like steering modifications, like more angle to scrub more speed.
When you're saying scrub speed, what does that mean again?
So it's basically like you're scrubbing. Scrubbing is like when you're counter steering basically like when the car is approaching a corner, you're counter steering, and you're dragging all four tires sideways.
Mm-hmm.
So the car is actually slowing down at a more dramatic rate than if you were just to let it coast straight.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's kind of what like professionals or better drivers do while entering a corner. It looks cooler. Um, it sets you up better for the next corner. Things of that
So it's not
nature.
it's not just that it looks cool, but there actually is like science behind it,
Yeah, I would say more like,
as opposed to you just braking and going through the turn like an F1 driver or something.
yeah, because it's all about like keeping like a fluid motion on the track, um, and that's kind of what like grabs people's attention. Like not just like driving up to a corner, getting it sideways, and then straightening it back up. It's more like keeping the car in motion, going fast, throwing a lot of angle, and then that's what makes it more exciting. And then once you like ride in a car, you can kind of tell like, oh yeah, this is definitely like more exciting. Um, this is kind of like nuts. Um, like it really puts you out of your comfort zone if you want to drive fast. Um, and that's what I'm trying to like strive for, is just drive a bit more aggressive, really push the car and my like skills to the limit, and then just kind of progress and build the car up to where I need to be, or match my skills to how the car is. So that's what I'm like currently doing, just making things easier for me, to where I can drive better, drive with other drivers more consistently in tandem.
Oh, you guys go out in tandem, like.
Yeah, like a pair of cars, or trios, quads, whatever you want to call it. Like a good Warzone reference. Yeah, trios, quads. Any more than like three cars is kind of like just a group. Um, like in Japan, they do a big. They'll do like a lot of like twin drift, tandems, a lead and a chase car. Same thing in professional drifting. It's usually a lead and a chase car, and so the chase car will mimic the lead car's line and match it, and then they'll swap positions, and then the chase car will mimic that lead car's line, and whoever does it better in both positions kind of gets the win. Um, but yeah, I would say yeah, 2 to 3 cars is really cool. Anything more, as long as it looks cool, it's cool to see. But having a bit more than three is kind of nerve wracking.
Three's the sweet spot.
Yeah, and then I mean it lessens the chance for like a pile up, or if someone in the lead position makes a mistake, now you have 2 cars behind you that need to avoid a wreck.
Compensate.
Yeah. So yeah, having more than that, it just really it raises the stakes. It's been done hundreds of times over, but yeah, I would say, yeah, it's a risk you got to take, but as long as you're comfortable doing it, if you're comfortable with the other drivers
Do
in
you
that
guys
group.
like almost do a, I don't know, a rehearsement, or do you? I can only compare it to like the Navy or something, like where you have like a meetup prior to it and be like, all right, here's how we're going to execute. We're going to go through turn 2 and we're going to do this.
We
After that, you're going to lead. Trey, you got it. And then at the end, we'll wrap up.
we probably should. It's
Or is it just
normally
fucking full send? We'll figure it out.
it's mainly like right before we like line up, you'll have like a driver that you're probably gonna drive with. That's like your buddy or your friend or a guy that like you trust, or and then you'll kind of like do a run, get off the track, cool down, like queue back up in line, and then maybe swap positions, or just kind of pull off to the side of the pits and then maybe like get with a different driver and coordinate. But you're limited on time, so you really want to make the most of the time, but you also don't want to like line up with someone that you don't really know, and like you don't know their driving technique or their skill, and maybe you're unsure of how they drive. You might set yourself up, like you could end up wrecking your car for no good reason.
Yeah.
um, but I mean that even happens with like good friends. It's just weird like that sometimes. Maybe the tires get too hot, and you're like hot lapping, and tires are spent, and you don't realize it till the first corner. You spin out, you loop it out, and then what do you know? You got like 2 cars behind you trying to avoid it, or you all just kind of like just basically just domino each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's you kind of want to pick your poison, but that's why I try to like hang out with a certain group of people that I'm trying to drive like with, and then drive like up to their level. And then also around like the same horsepower and grip range, because if you're in the same ballpark on that spectrum, then your driving should be kind of similar. So you won't be getting gapped by somebody. They're not going to be pulling away from you, and then you're trying to catch up. And if basically the bigger the gap there is, the more chance of a bigger crash.
The bigger the gap there is,
Yeah. So
you
if you're
think that
really
would create safety?
yeah, if you're really close to someone and they spin out, you're just going to kind of tap them and kind of spin. If you're a couple feet away, then it's going to be a bigger impact. If you're 50 feet away and you don't avoid the wreck, right, then you're slamming into that car. So yeah, it's kind of weird like that. Like if you ever like rear-ended a car on the road and you were very close to that car, like there's not much damage. But if you're super far away and then they slam on your brakes and you slide into them, there's a little bit more damage. So if you're really far away and you're sliding even further away, then it would probably create even more damage because it's a parked car and your car is rolling. So yeah.
You were talking about earlier, like improving your skills. Do you feel like your car has ever held you back, or do you feel like your car is capable of more and you're still expanding your comfort zone?
Yeah, so I just changed a bunch of things on the car, and I'm still like getting used to the way the car drives. So I think I'm in the right ballpark. Like I changed the front suspension geometry, like of the front knuckles. So I'm running like a knuckle that is modified from factory.
What are the knuckles?
So they're
Steering knuckles?
yeah, the steering knuckles. Yeah, they basically the tie rod pickup points are shorter than OEM, and there's a little bit less Ackerman built into them. And the Ackerman just kind of changes the like the steering curve.
And this is obviously what's controlling and pulling on the wheels to make them.
So like on a normal car, like the lead wheel will have a bit more angle than the outside wheel.
Really?
That's why you can make U-turns in like normal vehicles, is because the inside wheel actually turns more than the outside wheel,
Ever so slightly.
which creates that like the radius, right?
Okay.
The steering radius. That's how you're able to make U-turns. That's why you can pull into parking spaces. It's like an Ackerman theory, and it's really big in drifting. So a lot of guys will modify that Ackerman, take out some of that angle like that, take out a couple of degrees, and then the steering will be a bit more parallel, which makes the car just more linear in drift.
Is there symmetry in that? Like if I'm turning right, naturally, this is crazy. I just learned this. Like you're the only person who's ever told me this.
Yeah.
Does this date back? Is this only JDM vehicles? Is this since cars have been manufactured forever?
Oh yeah, it goes back.
Is it both sides? Like if I'm turning right,
it goes back to like horse and carriage, probably.
damn.
Because like a carriage, like a horse and carriage, like if they're turning, the wheels are just gonna dig in the dirt, and the carriage is probably gonna flip over or whatever. So I think it happened a long time ago, even before cars. But yeah, every car has like a certain amount of Ackerman. I think there's a
Ackerman.
There's a theory for it. So I think there's a formula, and then
Fucking science.
most cars have about the same, and that's how.
It's just enough, huh?
Yeah, it's just enough to where you can make that U-turn. You can pull into parking spots. It doesn't feel weird. So like in a drift car, the steering's more like your steering input is a bit more snappier.
With a lack of acronym.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess that would be. So you have like I think it's. Yeah. Less Ackerman. But there's also like the Ackerman is just one aspect of it, and then like a shorter tie rod pickup point, which I think kind of helps with the steering input. So if you're like switching lanes really quick, you can kind of switch lanes in a normal car and it'll feel fine. Like you gotta use some input to really get it to kind of to go over into a lane. But like on a modified knuckle, you can use probably half of that input and switch a lane.
When you say half that input, do you mean it's less force you're applying to the steering wheel or less turn?
Yeah, I would
mess
say
up
like
our lighting here. It's all good.
I would say less input, less steering input, to get the car to do the same thing.
Interesting. And this car has power steering, right?
Yeah, power steering.
Is your drifting hard on that? Does it affect it in any way?
Yeah, I actually run a power steering cooler.
It gets hot.
Yeah, the power steering gets very hot, and then because you use, I mean, that's all you do. I mean, you're putting huge inputs of steering while drifting, so you're just really using that system, really using the hydraulic system. And
The steering's
just gets
hydraulic?
very hot. Yeah, the steering just gets very hot, and then I mean, you'll probably just kill a power steering pump, or you'll lose feel in the steering, and then you'll have to kind of force it back. So yeah, a lot of guys run coolers, and that just helps mitigate the fluid temps. Also oil coolers. I don't have one yet, but I'm gonna run an oil cooler. Helps on like hot days. Definitely. Oil temps are big in drifting, especially on like bigger courses. Yeah, oil temps are huge. They can really make or break, blow your car up, whatever. So yeah, you just gotta. There's a couple things you have to kind of mitigate because you're beating the car really hard. You're driving very aggressive. There's a lot of throttle use, and you're not really paying attention to that stuff while you're driving. So you kind of want to put in like these safe. I don't know the word, but like little things to prevent you from messing anything up on the car mechanically.
Interesting. You said on the bigger tracks. What I would imagine because you're racing longer naturally.
So like on a like the skid pad at OSW, I mean it's literally like
Is that a track out here?
yeah. So it's at Orlando Speed World. That's where we kind of just do like local events. It's really cheap. You get to drive for like 5 or 6 hours, roughly. It's like a big car meet basically. Even if like your car breaks down, you can still have a good time. 'Cause it's only like $60, so I mean you're really not spending a lot. So even if you get to practice for a couple laps and test something out, it's still it's still worth my while going. But the runs will only be like, I don't know, 20 seconds, right? Um, maybe it feels longer. Um, but you do like a run and then you queue back up in line and then maybe that takes 5 minutes. So you have a lot of time for the car to cool down. On a longer track, maybe something like the Firm, which is in like near Palatka, like kind of North Florida. That's a track I went to like 3 weeks ago, and those runs are probably twice as long, and you're probably going twice as fast, if not more. Um, so you just got to be really mindful if you're just driving the car back around the track and then going again, like everything will start doubling up. So you really want to check your temps in between runs, and then if everything checks out, then you probably do another run. I'm also big on like tire pressure, um, like using the most of my tires for the money. So normally after a couple runs, I'll lower the tire pressure, check it because the tires PSI will actually go up significantly after a couple runs or on a hot day. And then higher temps, higher tire temperatures in general will make your tire wear faster. So there's ways to mitigate that. You can use tire sprayers. Some people even have like built-in systems in their car where they just press a button and like cold water will shoot on the tires after a run, and that just helps bring that tire temperature down to increase life, longevity, things of that nature. And then just
That's crazy. So, like,
yeah,
not to cut you off, they'll rip around the track, and they'll be like, "Man, it's getting pretty hot in here," and they'll press a little button, and they'll just let it cool off, and then hit another lap.
yeah. Yeah, I put one in my buddy's car. It's really simple. I think we hooked it up to like the old like windshield washer reservoir, and then just used like cold water,
There you go.
and then ran like some tubes
Put some ice
into.
cubes in there.
Yeah, we used to use ice cubes in the like a pesticide sprayer. So we just spray our tires after a run.
Yeah.
Or like a puddle of water or something will work. Usually they have
Do you ever
like
hear
a.
the wire like?
Not really. I would always do
No.
it after a run. I would just have like a pesticide sprayer and just spray down my tires and then take out the air because the air is very hot inside the tire. You can really feel it. So you take some of that air out and go back out there. But yeah, having cooler tires will definitely help. Having very cold tires won't really help. So you kind of want to warm them up before I run, do like a little burnout or something, and that's just mainly for like consistency. It's not very common in at like a just a regular event.
Okay.
A lot of professionals do it because they want that consistency.
What about in here? Does it get hot in here?
Yeah, it's
You got all
kind
your
of very
carpets pulled
hot.
out?
Yeah, there's no like sound deadening. The trans tunnel gets very hot.
I would imagine this just radiates heat.
Yeah, the trans tunnel, mainly like my right heel, near the gas pedal. I need to put like some heat shielding on the bottom side near where the exhaust is.
Yeah.
Just a couple things that would help mitigate some heat.
I would imagine like you can buy some materials that you could put in here, almost like underlayment underneath. You know how they put the stuff under carpeting.
Yeah, yeah, you could do it on the top side. The only thing is like you don't want to have much in the way of your feet because your feet are moving a lot, so you don't have
Yeah.
anything to grab it, like a floor mat or something. If it's loose in the car, like that could stick underneath your gas pedal or get in between your foot or something like that, and could cause you to like wreck or something. But if you have like regular carpet, it's probably fine.
Yeah.
In like a regular street car. But yeah, I've melted like a heel of my shoe before.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I have a pair of Nikes that just melted like the whole back of the heel just from driving.
Damn.
Um, but never like severely burned myself, I guess, driving.
Yeah, that I remember that was one of the things that happened to me with when I would ride. Because you and everyone else I worked with knew like I rode a lot, and I would fuck up my left foot from the shifter. The shifters would always wear out the laces, and then my right foot I'd always, especially on my throw goods, like my favorite pair of work boots, I'd always like burn it on the exhaust. I'd always melt the back left foot. I was so our favorite hobbies are like destroying our clothing and our shoes, and it just comes with the territory, I guess. But
Yeah,
skating, driving, riding.
yeah, and like yeah, I used to like longboard a little bit, so like on this clutch pedal, I just put like grip tape on it. It helps with like friction and things of that nature. Like the rubber pedal kind of works, but it always rips. I never put one back on, so I just use grip tape, and it works really well.
When you hit the track, are you rocking a helmet, or are you just wearing regular clothes in here? You got gloves on, or
Yeah, I wear like racing gloves, like a full face helmet. It's required at the events.
what kind of helmet?
Uh, it's just like a race quip, like certified helmet. I think Snell, like it's gotta be Snell certified.
Okay.
Um, and then just like some racing gloves. This company, Shirts Tucked In, makes some really nice gloves.
The company's called Shirts Tucked In.
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. It's this guy Casey. He lives in Japan, and he just drives really well. And he makes a lot of cool apparel, interior accessories. Like he made this shift knob. Um, just made a lot of like cool
This
little
thing is pretty
things.
cool. I wish I could get a good view of it on camera.
Yeah, it's just like a clear
We might
rainbow
have
flake
to
shift knob.
do a
Um,
little walk around after this and get some photos.
yeah, but yeah, he has really good driving, and I
What
try to like
what's his name?
uh, Casey. I don't know his last name, but yeah, he just drives super aggressive, very fast, um, and I kind of look up to him and a couple other drivers like Naoki Nakamura. They're really good buddies. He works on his car, and they're just kind of like legends over there. And I've seen like Nakamura come to the states and drive, and that's kind of like how like I want to drive. Like they're very aggressive. They use all the whole car, um, and you know they don't have a lot of horsepower, but they make it work. They use all the grip of the car, and then they use their driving skills to kind of outdrive other drivers. So it's really cool.
Nice, nice. Um, what are the drift goals? I know that you talked about improving your skills and stuff, but do you ever see yourself trying to compete with this, or is it just recreation right now, or are there amateur like races out here?
Yeah, so they're having like a. I'm not gonna do it this year, but I'm gonna go like watch my buddy Nicky. He drives really well. Um, there's a like a $5,000 cash like drift series they're doing at the firm this year for like amateur drivers, semi-professional maybe, whatever you want to call it. But it's basically open to anybody, and they limit the tire size to like a 32, 35 width tire to make it more evenly matched for other cars. Um, So I don't think I'll do it. I just want to drive better, get more comfortable driving with other people and being more consistent with my driving lap after lap, to where like the car will only be out of control if I make it do that, not freaking out or the car spins out because I just can't drive the car, right? Like Um, so just being consistent lap after lap and tandeming more, driving, yeah, I guess just driving better and having people, that want to drive with me. Um, so I really like try to, I don't know, try to I wouldn't say try to have people like look up to me, but like eventually that would be like a goal, like that I did something, like that I've made improvements, and um, you know, I then I can tell people who influenced my driving, and you know, it's kind of like a ladder, right? Like this guy started this, now this guy took some of this and you know improved upon it, and you know, kind of keep it going, you know, keep drifting alive, and like just fun, really. Like if you're not having fun, like um, you know, then you're probably competing, and maybe you're not having as much fun. So like competing for me is just not super fun. I get like anxious about like being better than someone, and you know, really, I I think it's just more about the fun for me, like having that outside thing from work that kind of I can look forward to, and then it also like helps me push myself like mentally. Um, Same thing with climbing, like indoor bouldering. If I'm not working on my car, like I'm probably bouldering, because it helps me like push myself mentally and physically. Um, it kind of gets you like out of your comfort zone. Um, so with drifting, you can kind of do that too, but you really gotta add a little bit more. You gotta get a little bit more uncomfortable to become like a better driver, and sometimes that's really hard for people.
Leaving the comfort zone.
Yeah, and that's why you'll kind of see um, drivers that maybe don't drive into the corner as fast as other drivers, even though they're in the same group class, or they don't drive with other people, or maybe they just kind of take it easy, or maybe they're going very slow, or they're you know they're not using all the track, or whatever, or maybe they only drive it a couple times and then leave, right? So like I don't really care about the car that much. So like if it breaks or something, I'm not gonna like lose it. That's why I bought the car, to really learn and like improve upon my driving. Because I've had it for so long that yeah, the prices of these cars are going up, but it's only because there's only so many left. Um, but at the end of the day, it's just a regular car. There's other platforms out there that are better. These are just more sought after because of the Japanese influence, because they had a ton of these over there, and they could buy them like a dime a dozen. Um, so that's kind of why like over here they're getting more limited, and people are like, well, maybe I really need to get one, but we're really fortunate over here because we have better platforms, and drifting can be affordable. Even if you're not drifting a 240, you could be drifting a BMW, E46, E36, whatever, you know, a 350Z. Like the new FRSs are getting cheaper. Like those are really good platforms.
What's the what model is it?
Like the FRS, or like
Who makes
the
that?
BRZ, like Scion or Toyota.
Okay.
Yeah. Subaru.
Scion, huh?
Yeah. So yeah, Scion's not a thing anymore.
I forgot they even existed. They're not
Yeah.
around anymore?
No,
Okay.
they're not. Toyota kind of took back their brand.
Were they a subsidiary?
Yeah, I think they were partnered, and you know, they made the
One of those like sister companies?
yeah, they made like the Scion TC, XB, things of that nature. Like those were probably like those weren't really ever gonna be like. I think they were just trying to make a car for like a car line for like college kids, or like
Right.
or people that just want to like be more on a budget.
Companies do that. They'll have like I feel like more back in the day, because I'd dork out on these documentaries, like, you know, kind of lean towards GM and all that stuff, America. But they would instead of creating a trim level or something, or a different model that's more affordable, they would be like, we're going to make Pontiac, and Pontiac's this for this lower middle class, and then Cadillac's going to be luxury, and I feel like Scion, yeah. But now, yeah, Toyota's like, no, we'll just make the
Yeah, like
so and so model.
yeah, and Toyota like took it back and then
Camry used to be a cheap car, dude. Now Camrys are like sought after. They're
yeah, I
like,
mean you
oh,
have
I wish I could afford that.
TRD Camrys now. Like you have
Wild.
yeah, you have $60,000 Camrys and
What's the
yeah,
cheap one?
it's probably like the XLE or
Not the
something
Camry,
or
but the sister to the Camry.
the
The
Corolla.
Corollas. Like
Yeah.
that's the affordable entry level. Like I need a car, I'll get a used Corolla.
Yeah, and it'll last forever, and you just kind of dump it after it's dead, if it ever does die.
Yeah.
But they rebadge it. But yeah, there's plenty of affordable drift cars. I mean, there's even like the older Corvettes are now becoming a thing. They're doing a lot of development with those cars as far as like steering angle kits, handbrakes. This company like 3D scan the car and like makes a roll cage kit for it now that you can just weld into the car without bending anything. You can just basically just put it in the car and just weld it up.
Dropping.
Yeah, it's basically a drop in for it, and yeah, they're really competitive. Yeah, I think they're cool. And then we have a lot of V8s. Like engine swaps are very easy for these cars. That's a thing like in Japan they don't have. They don't really have a lot of V8s that are like easy to swap in or direct swap. So we have a lot of accessibility to a lot of engines, but we kind of want what's on the other side. And
Yeah,
Japan
The
probably
other,
feels the same way.
the grass on the other side of the fence.
Like we want a right-hand drive car, but really like guys in Japan want a left-hand drive car.
Funny.
That's kind of how it is though. Like people geek out on like stuff they can't have.
Yeah.
And it's not really always about like what you can't have. It's what you have and what you do with it. But yeah, it's a neat little hobby. It's still pretty small, but I mean, there's like the professional side is like televised. Like Formula Drift's really big, and those cars make like 1,000 horsepower, and some of the best drivers in the world, actually move to the U.S. to compete in the series, and it brings a lot of good things to the U.S. drifting side of things, and how we kind of started being influenced by Japan, and maybe now Japan's possibly looking at us like, oh yeah, they're pretty innovative, and
Damn right.
their cars are, the fabrication and the development and everything over here is really good, and we have a lot of space and a lot of amenities, so we can use that to our advantage, and that's why there's so many parts for these cars, and all these companies are competing to make all these aftermarket products. It's insane. Yeah, there's a lot of accessibility. Cars are really easy to build now. You don't have to like search on the forums like how to set up a car.
No shit, dude. That was some old school internet, like
Yeah.
whether it's motorcycles or drift car, whatever. Like, oh, you go on the forums. Like, oh no, there's this. You got to go on the forums. This user 2699, he knows all the stuff. Like, you have to wait for a reply, and then like, I found a part on eBay, but it has to ship in, but it got lost in shipping. Like,
Yeah. It's super easy. Like, if
I'm
you want-
not that, I'm not even that old, but like,
Yeah.
I hear tales of how it used to be.
Yeah, like if you wanted to run a certain turbo on a certain engine and you didn't know, or you didn't know how to,
How are you gonna figure that out? How are you gonna make it pair up?
you gotta ask that some guy from what he was running and if it worked out for him, and if this bolt will fit from this car to this car, or
And
turbo,
that's
or-
only because that guy had the balls to break his shit and then document his story.
yeah, and just knowing like
Be like, hey, I figured out the right way to do it.
yeah, you can cut a lot of corners. Like, there's a lot of things you can skip that a lot of people went through to get to this point. So yeah, it's nice. The accessibility is great, and it really helps you like save money, buying the right part first time, and staying away from certain brands that may not be that great, or possibly the parts aren't very strong or well developed, and
China.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, yeah, all the information's out there. Obviously, YouTube is, you know,
YouTube University.
yeah, I mean, you can learn a ton on there if you just you can watch videos of driving techniques, whatever, car builds, testing, um, dynamics, of cars, what cars do, what they can't do, everything. You can learn how to align your car in your garage. You can
Yeah.
whatever. You can if you need to like even fabricate something, kind of just watch a video of how that guy did it. Or I mean, a lot of the stuff's really step by step tutorial, and it can really save you a lot of time and a lot of frustration.
You know what we do have?
What?
2 chocolate eclairs. I don't know if you wanted these, but they've been sitting. I've been staring at them the entire conversation.
Yeah.
It's dinner time, and we'd be spoiling our dinner. Fucking should have brought my knife. I'll do this. Just 2 fat people. Should have brought napkins.
That's fine. I have paper towels out there.
This is a luxury podcast. You're like, it's okay, I have tech wipes.
Yeah, it's fine.
Oh, man.
I haven't had an eclair in a
Yeah, I haven't had
I
one.
don't know where you would get them from. Like,
I just saw it in the bakery section. I usually don't keep sweets in the house, but I haven't had one of these in quite literally over a year.
It kind of looks like motor oil in this light.
It's still kind of cold.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. What was I going to say? What's the scene out here like? Because you said you started drifting in SoCal, which me and you have rambled about, the love of motorsports in a state that's not very welcoming to, at least
yeah,
policy-wise. But there's a lot of people who live there, and I got to imagine there's a good scene out there.
yeah. There's a lot of great driving out there. California is one of the first states to be influenced by drifting. A lot of Japanese drivers came over to like Irwindale when they started allowing drifting there,
And they started allowing drifting there?
Yeah,
They didn't allow it?
Yeah, a lot of tracks didn't allow drifting in the early 2000s because they
Or
thought of it.
Car racism?
They thought of it as just like ruining the track, and it was a waste of time, and they didn't see the money in it, or like why are you renting out a car or a track just to mess it up? And so yeah, there was a lot of stigma behind drifting. But
You're hurting our pavement.
yeah, the scene's really good out there. It's just the driving's really great. They have some really cool tracks, which helps. Irwindale hosts like the Formula Drift Series, so that's always like the final round where they compete for the championship. Apple Valley Speedway is awesome.
Oh, yeah, in the desert.
Willow Springs is great.
Willow Springs does, a lot of my buddies go out there to do the performance Harley racing. They'll go out there with the sport bike guys, and they'll have like a Harley day. And they'll get all leathered up at the Willow Springs.
Yeah, and they have like several tracks there. So they have like the skid pad, they have the Horse Thief Mile, which has huge elevation changes. So they'll go out to there.
I'm curious, did you ever go to, this might be only, because I think a track is a track. They open it to whoever. I know a lot of motorcycle guys go out to Chuckawalla Speedway.
No,
Did
never went.
they ever do that one for cars drifting? So it's just out in the desert. It's like out by Paris.
Yeah.
Big, flat, curvy.
There's also like Thunder Hill, I think, in NorCal, which is like an actual like circuit, and they drift part of that. They have a huge skid pad there. It's like it's basically like you can lay out pretty much whatever track you want to on it. It's massive. And then yeah, Pacific Northwest there's a few tracks, but Florida's it's okay. I mean, they shut down like the West Palm Beach track, I think, or something.
Oh no.
Um,
Was that a more notable one?
I think they were doing events there, maybe. But there is like a place in Brooksville that says they're building like a huge like skid pad and like a drag strip?
You know, I have another Navy friend. He's out now. I'm embarrassed, like, because I always talk to him by his last name. I never called him by his first name because we were just in uniforms being monkeys together.
Yeah.
But he's totally into all this stuff. Like, I would really like for us to get together. And he lives down there out just I don't know South Florida as well, but he lives 20 minutes from Miami, a little bit more inland.
Okay.
But he's into he does photography for all like the car
Like
JDM
Homestead or something?
not Homestead. I know where that is.
Okay.
Another goofy city. He goes to all the cars and coffees down there, does photography. I'll have to put us in touch. I want to do a podcast with him. It'd be really cool if we could do like the three of us together in a car or something. Like,
Yeah.
bullshitting. Yeah, you'd really like him. He does photography for supercars and all that stuff, but his bread and butter is this. He loves the drift scene too. I'm not even sure what his project car is. And he can talk too. He would love to share everything with you.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So West Palm Beach, they shut that down. That was like a big thing in the
Yeah.
news.
Not really.
Or the car world.
I think it was before I moved back here, so I don't really know. I never went there, so
I heard West Palm Beach is kind of rough. I don't know anything about it.
yeah, I haven't been there.
People talk it up, but then people go there and they're like, eh.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a lot of the like beach cities. You'll have a nice area, you'll have a not so whatever area. People think of Daytona as like a really cool spot until like you
They actually get
live
to
there.
explore it, yeah.
Yeah, Daytona, they have the racetrack, and I think
I'll say this, I
that's the
think
best part.
me and Victoria explored a little bit of downtown. We were house shopping, and, we weren't exactly impressed, but I could tell that their main strip of bars and cafes and restaurants is like on the come up. Like they're trying to rebuild it. They're trying to, whatever you want to call it, gentrify it, clean it up, pavement, homeless, all that stuff, storefronts,
Yeah,
ambiance.
yeah. I mean, there's
So,
a lot of potential there.
Fingers
I mean,
crossed. Fingers crossed Daytona becomes a more
Yeah, I haven't been there in
hospitable
forever,
city.
honestly. Yeah,
I always liked Port Orange. Port Orange was cool.
yeah.
Just beneath Daytona.
Mm-hmm.
What do we got out here in Orlando? We got Orlando Speed World.
Yeah.
Do you ever go out to Tampa, St. Petersburg area?
Yeah,
They have a good scene?
there's a lot of drivers that come from Tampa. They just opened up like it's probably been around for a little bit, but there's like an old like oval track there called like Showtime. So they'll have drift events there, but
I think I see that one on.
it's basically like an oval.
I know exactly the
with
track
an
you're talking
infield
about.
section. It's a low bank oval.
It almost looks NASCAR-esque.
Yeah.
Or like old boxcar racing.
Yeah, maybe it's like a quarter mile or 3/8 or something.
I watch
Smaller track.
a YouTuber. It's like a real estate YouTube channel with a big fat guy named Ben Malla. I don't know if you ever. He's famous to the real estate world and everybody
Yeah.
in Florida. But naturally, like most people with money, he's got hobbies, and him and his sons will go out there and like drift cars. And I've seen that oval track. They're like, we're out here in Tampa. They'll be out there on like a Friday night. Got the stadium lighting going. They'll go out there, wreck their cars, and walk around the parking lot, asking people for a jack or spare tires. Or,
Yeah. Yeah.
it has to be the one you're talking
It
about.
probably is. Yeah, that's the only other one, like in this area. But I mean, hopefully, like this like skid pad or whatever gets built in Brooksville. It's called like Leadfoot City or something.
Where's Brooksville again?
Brooksville's like near, like if you took like the 50 like all the way west, like towards I-75.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of like north of Tampa.
Oh,
Yeah, it's like
we've been to Brooksville. Me and Victoria got an Airbnb there once.
yeah, it's like north of Tampa.
She chose it because it was close to Silver Springs and close to Tampa.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. But yeah, 75.
Yeah, they had a nice little
I
downtown.
think
They were
it's just
cute.
west of I-75.
That's hilarious. Brooksville.
But I guess they're building like an 8th mile drag strip.
Out in the
too or
middle of
something.
nowhere, huh? That's
Yeah.
because the residents and the zoning, huh?
Yeah,
all gonna be all
They still
noisy.
have to fight for it, so it's been a while. But they started construction this month, so I guess it's legit. So I mean that'll help. And then the firm is about 2.5 hours north of us, and that's a circuit. But they only do like private track rentals. They don't have like a regular schedule for like drift events, besides like that series that they're starting. And then everything else is like South Georgia, Alabama.
The hot spots?
Yeah, I mean, there's just
Nothing in
more.
Jacksonville?
Jacksonville, no, not really.
Gainesville? Gainesville's
Mm,
college town.
yeah, not really.
Damn.
Yeah, it's really tough. Yeah,
I would think Jacksonville would be a good dirty city for some car racing.
yeah. I mean, it'd be cool. But yeah, I think South Georgia has a good track. Um,
What about South Florida? I mean, we touched on West Palm, Miami, Boca
South,
Raton.
yeah, I don't think there's much down there.
Nothing?
Yeah, I mean, there
Sad.
was one in the Panhandle, but it got closed down.
I'm
It's a
seeing this
really nice
pattern because
track.
like you're in the drift scene and I mean these tracks they're multi-use, but I even saw what's that city was to the west of us with all the lakes? Um,
Like west
help,
of here,
yeah, help me out.
not Lakeland, right?
No. West of Longwood, 40 minutes or something. You got a cell phone on you? I
It's
didn't.
charging.
It was like anyways. Ah,
Land Lakes? No, I don't know.
something with like a B or like a not or a G or something.
I don't know. What
Anyways,
about it?
I hosted an open house out there. Anyways, they had a really sick ass motocross track there. They built there, and then residential development started popping up over the decades, and they just shut down the motocross track. And it was a motocross track for professional motocross, supercross racers to practice at.
Yeah,
And the city council was pushing super hard to like shut it down. And the guy's like, "No, I just want certain hours. I'm trying to be courteous of like this isn't even open to the public." And
yeah,
Florida shut it down.
yeah.
And there was another OHV place. Maybe you know about this one. It was really famous here in Florida. And again, I'm not native Floridian, but it was like a off-highway vehicle used for like side-by-sides, buggies. It had a giant lake in the middle. They had bars set up and stuff, sand tracks and stuff.
Yeah,
And they shut it down during COVID, and now it's just gone.
that sucks.
Yeah, I was when we were making our move out here like 2 years ago. I was researching the flying crap out of it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to move out there. Like we're gonna hit that spot. I'm just gonna go, even if we go out there and like watch, like that'll be the hangout. Just like the same thing at the drift tracks. Like even if you break your shit, like it's just cool to post up, and then you're like, all right, well I'll just hang out with my buddies and watch some other drifters.
Yeah, yeah, because yeah, I normally go there and then link up with a few buddies and then, shoot the shit and then drive, whatever, help them out, or if they won't help me out. So it's always cool to like at least keep everybody's like spirits up, even if something really shitty happens. Like
Yeah,
someone's like,
those are usually the best weekends when things do break. Like so you have a story to tell.
yeah,
It's
like
never been fun when it's like
yeah,
I drifted perfectly all weekend, and it was me and my pals, and everything was fine. Then we went home. Like,
yeah, yeah. Like I ripped my exhaust off my car at the firm. It's just bound to happen. Like I just went off the track on like the high speed entry part of the last corner, and it was just a huge dirt drop off, and the exhaust. I mean, the V band clamp just exploded, and
the clamp exploded.
yeah, pretty much it just failed. It's the lowest part on the car.
Okay,
I think that's why, and yeah, it's not the first time it's happened.
crazy.
So yeah, but other than that, the car was fine.
What were you working on before I came over here? You said you had another reoccurring issue.
Oh yeah, just on the turbo setup, the oil feed line, I thought it was loose, and obviously it's like a high pressure line, and it shoots a lot of oil. So if that comes loose, weird shit happens. So I checked it while the car was cold. I let it set for like the day, and I could like move it by hand, and then like there's some play like all the way around, and I was like, maybe that's it. Maybe it's loose, but it's very hard to tighten. Like you have to take the whole manifold off to tighten it, or look at it or whatever, and make sure that's actually why it's loose or whatever. So yeah, I drove my car around the block, put it back in, and I guess by me messing with it, the car was actually just dumping oil. I mean, just and the line is
Where's this oil coming from?
so it's being fed from the from like the oil pressure sensor. So like on the passenger side of the block, like near the oil filter.
So straight from the engine's own sump?
Yeah,
Wow.
straight from the engine, and then yeah, and then it feeds back down into the oil pan.
So it oils. I'm a little ignorant here. I didn't even know turbos got oil. So it lubricates the turbo?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a ball bearing turbo, and it needs a certain amount of oil. If it has too much oil, it'll actually bypass um, like the bearings or whatever, and then it'll come out the exhaust and it'll start smoking. So it needs like it needs like a certain like certain little amount of oil to keep it lubricated, everything running properly. It's also water cooled as well. Most modern turbos are water cooled. I'm not running water lines on mine because it's an old turbo and I don't really care. I didn't put much money into it.
You just like run it till
So
it blows.
yeah, it's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
He says.
Yeah, it's fine.
You just get
I'll do
Dasani
it.
water bottle with a knife poke and
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, I'll do it on like a more modern turbo setup whenever that day comes. I'll do it properly.
yeah.
On
But
something
you said
more
like this
expensive.
car is like you know what it is, you appreciate what it is, and you're growing with it, so you don't mind beating on it a little.
Yeah, yeah. It's I also want to keep everything simple too, like simple to work on, simple to replace. If I break something, something I can just grab from like my buddy's shop or something. He might have a replacement part or another local. Um, yeah, not like overbuild it. Just get it to where it's reliable, which for the most part it is. And then whatever breaks should be pretty affordable to fix. That way I'm not stuck months on end saving up money. Because I mean the drift season doesn't really end in Florida because of the heat and like the seasons don't really change. It just kind of gets wet and then dry and then cools down a little bit.
I was gonna say, have you ever been at the track, had it rain
Yeah, definitely.
and get all nasty in here,
Yeah, so
humid?
yeah, drifting in the rain is tough.
Oh, I was imagining more like after the rain where it gets all sticky and nasty and humid.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean, Florida's very humid, so once it starts raining, it's not a good time. Um, but yeah, it's nice. I mean, you save tires. You're going slower, so it's not as exciting. But you get to practice like technique. Like if you ever, I don't know, you go to a track, you spend all this money, and then it's raining, and you can't be all like bummed about it. Like at least you know how to drive the car in the rain and still have fun.
yeah,
Because I mean, it happens, right? I mean, but days like that, you just got to make the most of it. I mean, as long as the track doesn't flood, it's still a win. So
yeah, still track. I mean, shoot, you paid $60, right?
yeah. So I mean, yeah, they have shut down the track due to flooding. The at OSW it does flood easily. So
Race days cut early. Also, your money's ours. Sorry.
yeah, but I mean, they try to work with us. I mean, there's so many events that we don't have an off season, so you got to kind of make your own off season, or you'll just run out of money and your car's gonna look like shit because you've been on it all year. And then, it's nice to take a break too. You don't always have to like keep up with everybody, at all of these events because there's plenty more to come. Like,
Right.
They're not gonna go anywhere, and
That's kind of how I felt when I got my motorcycle. I was like, I need to go to every event, and then I realized, at least where I was living at the time, back west, I was like, there's a lot of these. I'll be okay.
yeah.
What was I gonna ask here? Oh, okay. So we're sitting in the Nissan. Sounds like when you started out, this is the first drift car, correct?
Yeah, this is the first rear-wheel drive car I've owned.
Okay, when you got it, was it because of price, or you had an interest in Nissan and you've been looking for this model, or?
Yeah, I was looking for this model because my buddy had one, Clint, and we wanted to like match our cars,
Hell,
and I thought that was really cool. And
Matching bros.
Yeah, it was just more of a like, yeah, he has one, like that car looks cool. Like I thought they were rare, you know. And they kind of are today, in a sense, if you're not at a drift track or something. But yeah, I thought it was cool. I was like, yeah, it seems like a good platform. Like there's a lot of cool stuff you can do to them. It's already manual. It's rear wheel drive. It's lightweight. There's plenty of parts for them. Like everything's already like plug and play as far as like upgrading parts, you know, seat brackets, engine mounts, like different bushings, like all that stuff's already like super readily available and like affordable. So I feel like it was just a good platform to get into. Yeah, for like a, you know, a budget car.
Nice. Perfect world. Money is not an object. Your pocketbook is fat, and every model you could think of is on Marketplace. What are you getting? Ladies and gentlemen, would you believe we had another incident, this time not with video, but audio, where the last 10 minutes of my podcast here with my good friend Trey cut out, and we could not hear the audio. Now, we didn't know this was happening when it was happening, but nonetheless, it happened. So, what's that mean for my audience members? You like my dog there? That was Charlie. I just wanted to show her off. We're going to do another episode. We're going to get Trey out of his comfort zone. We're going to get him talking. Next time there might be some adult beverages to help, get things smooth and relaxed and all that stuff. And we're just going to shoot another episode. We'll do a walk around with this car, and we'll get lots of good conversations going. We'll get to dig deeper on topics that I know I wanted to, but we're just glazing over the surface. That's what happens with these videos when I have guests on for the first time. We're just glossing over the basic stuff before we really get into the juicy stuff on part 2, 3, 4. How many times I want to have them on? All right, so I do hope you enjoyed that episode. We got down to an hour and 20 minutes. And we're going to have him on again soon. Comment below, like, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Roast me in the comments. Thank you.